Hello everybody, and welcome to Second Seal, the series where I analyze popular characters in the Fire Emblem franchise. Today, I'll be covering someone who was no stranger to controversy. She has remained a disputed protagonist since her introduction back in 2007, and with my recent completion of Radiant Dawn, I thought it would be a good time to analyze her. We are covering the Maiden of Dawn, Micaiah. Micaiah is a young woman in her mid-20s who grew up in Daein. She never knew her parents as she was raised by an elderly caretaker. Soon after her guardian's death, Micaiah traveled across Daein making ends meet as a fortune teller. She was cautious and never stayed put. This was because of her heritage. Micaiah was Brandon, having the blood of both the Bjork and the Laguz in her veins. Such people were the object of scorn, rejected by both races. This animosity was heightened in Daein, a culture and society which prided itself upon Bjork heritage. To protect herself, Micaiah tried to bury her past and blend in as a full-blooded Bjork. However, she could not escape her destiny. Her Brandon nature granted her many powers, including slowed aging, foresight, mood reading, and most importantly of all, sacrifice. She began to leverage these powers to help the people around her, healing those who were ill without using staves or potions. During this time, Micaiah met a young boy named Soth. She took him in, and the two developed a strong bond. As time passed, Daein began to militarize and prepare for war. The propaganda against Laguz became widespread, and Micaiah feared what would happen to her if her heritage were to be discovered. In order to protect the one person in her life, Micaiah left Soth in Crimea so he would not be associated with her. After this decision, the Mad King's War began, and Micaiah regretted her actions. She returned to Daein, then Crimea to search for Soth, but he had already joined the Grail mercenaries. After the war, Micaiah and Soth met back up in Daein and vowed never to leave each other again. From the get-go, Micaiah has never felt secure or safe. She's constantly living in fear with no place to truly call home. However, the longer she stays in Daein, the more she helps its citizens. They hail her as a savior. Micaiah receives the love and appreciation she has been deprived of her entire existence. With these interactions, she develops a deep devotion to Daein and its people. They are the ones who have given her purpose. She also finds solace in Soth, a young boy who, like her, has no place to call home. They relate and support each other so well because they can truly understand each other. Their separation during the Mad King's War made this apparent. They depend on each other. Daein loses the war and is placed under Benyan occupation. Micaiah watches as her country is stripped of its resources and its citizens are oppressed. She only needs two things in life, Daein and Soth, and one of them is being challenged. The pair begin to fight back by sabotaging and hindering Benyan's actions in the town of Navasa. They quickly pick up that someone else is fighting back and they arrange to meet with them. Here, Micaiah meets Nolan, Edward, and Leonardo. Together, the group creates the Dawn Brigade, a freedom-fighting force set on liberating Daein. Although Nolan is initially the leader, Micaiah slowly becomes more influential as her miracle work with the Daein citizens has earned her the title the Silver-Haired Maiden. We first see Micaiah and the Dawn Brigade interact with Daein citizens in the prologue, where they fight off a group of bandits. Micaiah openly risks her position as well as the Dawn Brigade's cover to save the villagers in this instant. After the battle, a young boy named Nico affirms her actions and thanks her for what she has done. Micaiah takes this compliment to heart, feeling that her actions were justified despite the immediate danger. After this encounter, Soth and Nolan meet up with the rest of the Dawn Brigade. Unfortunately, Micaiah's most recent battle has forced them to flee from their current hideout. What's more, Micaiah was spotted using sacrifice to heal one of the villagers, giving away her identity. Soth scolds her, saying that he cannot keep her safe if she continues to put herself on the line like this. Micaiah brushes off his concerns with agreement. They have vowed to protect each other, yet Micaiah does not value her own safety. This is clearly seen in the next chapter where the villagers block the Benyan occupation forces from seizing the Dawn Brigade. The soldier shoots the young boy Nico, and instead of fleeing, Micaiah puts herself front and center to heal him with sacrifice. Through her lens, Micaiah saw the opportunity to help her country at the risk of her own life, and she took it. This decision was incredibly foolish and could have eliminated the Dawn Brigade. It displays how Micaiah takes immediate action with respect to her motivation, looking to make an impulsive move rather than planning for the future. This characteristic would come to define many of her actions. In Chapter 2, the Dawn Brigade agrees to help Laura break into a manor and retrieve her abbot's medicine. After the battle, Laura is missing, and Micaiah tells the Dawn Brigade to split up and search for her. This is another case of Micaiah making a rushed decision in an effort to help her country. If she had thought through her actions, the Dawn Brigade may have remained as a party for safety's sake or tried to rescue Lara after the fact. Instead, Micaiah wanders off alone, gets captured, and has to wait for Soth and company to save her. After being sprung, Micaiah hears of a rumor that Ashnard's long-lost son is hiding in the Desert of Death, looking to raise an army and reclaim the throne. She receives a premonition of this, and the Dawn Brigade set out to meet with the long-lost prince. During their travels, Micaiah and Soth begin to talk about the Laguz. The moment Soth mentions Ike, Micaiah shuts down the conversation. She acknowledges what Ike has done for Soth, but follows it up with, "To the people of Daein, he's the man who crushed us 3 years ago. Some would even call him our arch enemy. If we hadn't lost the war to that man, Daein wouldn't be in the mess it is in now. You know that." Many people criticize Micaiah for this statement, claiming Ashnard is to blame for Daein's downfall, not Ike. Although they may be correct, Micaiah's remark perfectly fits in with her character and perception of Ike and the war. She viewed the war from Daein's perspective, a country which saw Ashnard as its savior and protector. We, the player, viewed the war from the opposite perspective, seeing Ike and Crimea as the just fighter. Additionally, as outsiders, we have the power of hindsight, which allows us to analyze Path of Radiance's events without bias. Micaiah does not have this luxury. Ashnard's defeat, Benyen's occupation, and Daein's oppression are all things Micaiah is currently living through and have shaped her worldview. Her statement may be ignorant, but it lies within her character bounds. Her next interaction is with Raphael and Nyla. She comes across the duo and is incredibly friendly towards them, despite being Laguz. This is where we see Micaiah's kind nature resurface, as her general acceptance of Laguz can be attributed to both her personality and Brandon nature. This interaction is refreshing because there are very few instances where her personality overpowers her fervor for Daein. This acceptance of Laguz would prove to be useful. Micaiah and crew eventually come across a battle between Benyen and Daein forces. After reuniting with some old friends from the past war, they meet Azuka, Peleus' insane advisor who manipulates everyone around him to get his way. Soth and Micaiah are immediately put on edge, as his grating personality is so clearly evil, it makes the Black Knight look like a saint. They are then shown in and meet Peleus, Ashnard's long-lost son. Azuka babbles on about some crap, and then proclaims Micaiah as the Vice-General of the Daein Liberation Army. Soth calls him out, and Micaiah agrees with him, but the moment Peleus asks Micaiah the same thing, she gives in. Why? Because she believes Peleus is the Prince of Daein. She even then goes on to justify her decision, stating, "Prince Peleus cherishes the same wish I do. I can feel it. Deep in his heart, he wants to save Daein. If we work together, I know that we can do it." You just met the man. I doubt your mind-reading powers are so good that you can deduce a stranger's core desires and values that quickly. This interaction is so important in solidifying Micaiah's character. As I've said before, all of her actions can be seen through the lens of fighting for Daein. Here we have Daein, a country that has no internal leadership or sovereignty and is currently being crushed beneath the Empire's heel. Then comes along somebody who carries a shred of hope, a long-lost prince. Micaiah does not care what Peleus is like, she will follow him blindly. To our naive maiden, Peleus is the physical manifestation of Daein. He is the key to restoring the country to its former glory and strength, just as Crimea did 3 years ago. She may not trust Azuka because he is clearly malevolent, but she will follow Peleus without question or objection. The only person who can challenge her beliefs is Soth. This is characteristic of someone who follows their nation blindly without stopping to think of the ramifications. People see this and call Micaiah patriotic. Micaiah is not patriotic. A patriot is proud of their nation because of its merits, but is willing to admit its faults and change it for the better. Micaiah is a nationalist. She blinds herself to Daein's problems and shifts the blame to others, such as Ike. She even goes as far as to hide the one thing that makes her unique, her brand in nature, from Peleus in 1.7, where he assumes that Micaiah's brand is one of a spirit charmer like himself. He then goes on to insult the branded to her face, saying, "I know, it's hard to imagine someone with the blood of a subhuman running through their veins." Micaiah is clearly disturbed by his remarks, but doesn't speak up. She purposely pushes down her pride and heritage, pinning herself as the problem, not Peleus' perspective of the branded. She later professes her discomfort and insecurities to Soth, saying, "Right now, when they look at me, they have love and affection in their eyes. But would they look at me the same way if they knew? I don't want to find out, Soth. I don't think I could bear the truth. Soth asks if she wants to leave, but Micaiah rejects his offer, saying that she knew she would be in the spotlight, but it's okay if it's for the benefit of Daein. She is quoted as saying, "I realized how much I loved my country." Micaiah has discarded her individuality, heritage, and uniqueness for the greater benefit of Daein. If I haven't made it clear yet, Micaiah follows Peleus and Peleus only. She holds no respect for Azuka. In their meeting before 1-7, Micaiah questions Azuka during the War Council when he tells her that the prince will not be attending anymore. Furthermore, she allows her personal values to override her sense of nationalism by rejecting Azuka's plan to use poison. Micaiah sees Peleus as Daein's future, not Azuka. Despite her distaste, she will oblige Azuka only when necessary out of respect for Peleus. When Azuka turned Miraim into a feral one, she lashed out at him, calling him a twisted maniac. The prince apologizes for his advisor's actions and Micaiah accepts it, not pursuing any further harm against Azuka. This is frustrating to us as the player, but it's just another example of Micaiah bending over backward to accommodate Peleus because she truly believes he is Daein's savior, so much so that she is willing to suppress her personal beliefs over it. Her selfless nationalism shows again when investigating the mass execution in Chapter 1-8. Micaiah does not take any troops in case the execution is an ambush, openly risking her life despite being the literal glue of the Daein Liberation Army. After the successful liberation of prisoners, the Daein soldiers cheer for her, hailing her as the Priestess of Dawn. At this moment, Micaiah literally says, "I'm no hero." She is so wrapped up in serving Peleus that she fails to see how important she is. News arrives that Sephirin is coming to investigate the Benyan occupation forces. This is a massive victory for the Daein Liberation Army, and Prince Peleus throws a massive feast for his army. During the celebration, Micaiah slips away and rests in the middle of the forest. Hold up, can I just comment on how stupid this setup is? Why the hell is Micaiah, the elusive silver-haired maiden and vice general of the Daein Liberation Army, sitting in the middle of the forest during the night? Alone. I knew Micaiah didn't value her life when it came to serving her country, but she is absolutely blind to her position and importance. She takes impulsive to a whole nother level. Anyway, Jared finds her and summons his soldiers to strike her down. Micaiah naively says, "If the prince survives, the people will fight." She's only saying what she believes. If the prince survives, I will fight. If Daein survives, I will fight. She is pushing her motivation and ideals for fighting onto Daein's collective mindset. Jared laughs at her, telling her the truth that she is what binds the army together, not Peleus. Jared goes in to kill her, but the game is so dumbfounded by how stupid the situation is that it accidentally revives the villain from the past game. The Black Knight saves Micaiah in the nick of time, and helps her fight off Jared and his troops. Instead of killing her oppressor, Micaiah allows Jared to go free despite him being the source of Daein's problems. This is another instance where Micaiah's moral code pops up, except this time it hurts her. If she was truly acting in Daein's best interests, she would have killed Jared right there. Instead, she takes the moral high ground and preaches about some sacrificial bullcrap, allowing Jared to go free. Nice job, Vice General. In Part 1's finale, Micaiah convinces Peleus to march on Navassa to stop Benyan from razing the town. They are victorious and Peleus is crowned the king of Daein. He appoints Micaiah as the supreme commander of the armies of Daein, and the maiden happily obliges. Part 1 ends with Micaiah telling Soth, "It's not over yet. We'll have to work hard for a long time to return Daein to its former grandeur. I know it won't be easy, but if I have you two with me, I know we can do it." Her true motivations in life are with her. She is Soth, and she is serving Daein. She could not be happier. Nothing can ever ruin this.
Surprise, motherfucker!
We do not see the Priestess of Dawn again until 3-6. From this point forward, almost every decision and interaction we see revolves around Micaiah covering for Peleus or Daein. This is going to get repetitive, so buckle up. At the start of 3-6, Micaiah receives orders from Peleus to attack the Laguz alliance. And, like a good soldier, she does not question them. Soth approaches her, yelling, "We have no quarrels with the Laguz alliance. Why are we targeting them?" Micaiah admits that she does not know, but says she trusts Peleus. Unsatisfied, Soth repeats his question. Micaiah blankly responds with, Well, with a few exceptions, the soldiers are excited about hunting down the Laguz. They've been promised a large bounty for each one they kill. It's certainly raised their morale. Soth is understandably outraged at this statement and asks Micaiah if she really wants to fight. Micaiah admits that she doesn't want to fight, but blurts out, "What choice do I have? I am the general of this army. It doesn't matter how I feel. Besides, I can't let the king or the soldiers down. My duty ultimately lies with them. I'm sorry." Micaiah is neglecting her own values and pride to satisfy Daein's needs. Instead of confronting Peleus, she's creating excuses for him. In 3-7, Micaiah prepares to fight once again. She tells Soth that they will be fighting the Grail mercenaries, and that she wishes to know more about Ike. Soth tells her about Ike, and Micaiah admits that he's quite different from Peleus. However, she follows it up with a quick defense, stating, "His heart is in the right place. I believe in his virtuous nature, and his commitment to being a good king." Micaiah knows that Peleus is spineless when compared to Ike. However, she's invested everything into this man, and entrusted the future of Daein into his hands. She cannot turn back now, especially with the enemy at the door. So she will continue to ignore her lingering doubts. In 3-12, Micaiah falls ill on the field and is taken in. Peleus asks what happened, and Soth snaps at the king. "What do you think, genius? Micaiah fainted because you've been pushing her too hard. She's terrified that she won't live up to your expectations." Soth is spot on. With Lauren's medallion growing brighter and brighter, Micaiah's foresight powers begin to dim and her battle predictions fail. Despite her condition, Peleus continues to plead, becoming more and more disgraceful with each remark. Out of desperation, he reveals why Daein is fighting the Laguz alliance. He was tricked into signing a blood pact with the Benyan Senate, forcing Daein to fight under the Benyan standard. It is clear now. Peleus is a weak and worthless king who has doomed his people due to his own incompetence. We, the player, have lost all respect for him. Soth shares this view. Yet, Micaiah does not. She cannot turn back now. She cannot admit that the man she trusted her life to is a failure. To her, giving up on Peleus is the same as giving up on Daein. Her entire life revolves around her country, and she would rather die than give up on it. Micaiah understands that they are doomed, that they will likely be swept away by the Blood Pact. Yet she will not stop fighting until the very end. Daein engages the Laguz alliance in 3-12. Micaiah knows she cannot take them head on. Instead, she opts to eliminate the Apostle in a trap at the bottom of a cliff. This move is questioned by both Soth and Toronio, as it seems uncharacteristically ruthless. "Micaiah, it was you more than anyone else who used to hate plans like these." She expresses regret at her plan, but admits that she will do whatever it takes to buy Daein more time. Her back is against the wall, so she has stopped pulling the punches. Right before she gives the order to strike down the Apostle, Tabarin flies in and grabs Soth, threatening to drop him into the cliff. Micaiah pleads not to kill him, but does not stand down. Ike and Sanaki argue with Micaiah, telling her the battle is over and that continuing to fight would be a slaughter. Micaiah does not care. She believes that if she stands down, many of Daein's people will die, so she must continue to fight. She has chosen the people of Daein over her own soldiers, over Soth. Tabarin spares the young thief's life, but gives Micaiah a warning. The Laguz alliance leaves in bewilderment of Micaiah's actions. After the battle, Peleus approaches Micaiah, Soth, and Toronio about a solution to the Death Pact. He has read that if the pact maker is killed by a third party, the contract will be broken. He asks Micaiah to take his life, but she objects. Soth's near-death experience has questioned her nationalism, despite previously being adamant about sacrificing for the greater good. "I thought I would do anything for Daein, but then I saw Soth taken from me, and I saw him fall. I was powerless to do anything. I had taken so many lives as a general, and yet, when I thought of Soth dead..." Up to this point, Micaiah has been painted as a strong-willed nationalist who will do anything for her nation. However, the stress and fear of losing her close comrades has begun to wear on her. She can no longer follow the order she once gave. She is cracking. Peleus gives the order to be killed, but Micaiah refuses. Instead, Tyronio obliges and goes in to follow the king's wishes. Micaiah interjects and stops the killing, taking the hit herself. She slumps to the ground, saying, "I couldn't live with myself if I'd let you give up your life in vain. There must be another way. We'll look for it together." Micaiah's morals and attachment to Peleus have overridden her duty to Daein. She couldn't bear to lose someone who she has served and become attached to. Her nationalism has been checked by her emotion. Soon after, Micaiah releases the spirit Yoon from the medallion and marches with the rest to reverse Ashura's judgment. They save Bjork and Laguz, instating a new era of peace. Peleus abdicates the throne and Micaiah is crowned the 15th queen of Daein. Micaiah has endured a lot. Her troubled upbringing and past have haunted her, forcing her to find solace in those around her. In this time, she develops a deep connection to Daein and to Soth. This connection turns into her motivation, spiraling her into a nationalistic frenzy. She clings to a shred of hope, no matter how little promise it gives. As times get tough, she tries to power through them, believing she could do anything for Daein. However, she quickly wears herself down, both physically and mentally, and realizes that she could not bear to lose those she trusts most. Now, I'm going to keep my opinions on Micaiah short. I don't mind her too much, as she doesn't dominate the plot like a Mary Sue, yet she feels impactful throughout Radiant Dawn's story. I'm not going to even touch on her relationship with Soth, but my biggest gripe is that I find Micaiah's redemption arc to be very underwhelming. The only scene where we see Micaiah reflect on her experiences and follow her own morality rather than her nationalism is locked behind a second playthrough. I would have loved to see more development in her growing out of being a nationalist. Her character progression is cut short by Yoon's awakening, and I think it really hurts her since the game paints Micaiah as a kind and loving soul. Either way, I know one thing for sure. If you mess with Daein, she will fuck you up. I'm Aldwin, and I'm out.